I'd like to call the meeting, the Town of Delafield Board of Supervisors for Tuesday, February 11th. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, republic for which it stands, one nation, under God. If you'd call the roll, please.
Supervisor Mahoney Ogden.
Present.
Supervisor Miller.
Present.
Supervisor Wolfley is out, excused. Supervisor Berkowitz.
Present.
And Chairman Kranek.
Present.
Thank you.
Citizens' comments, public comments from citizens regarding items on or not on the agenda. The board may not engage in discussions with the citizen making the comments. Individual presentations are limited to 3 minutes, and citizens shall follow the rules set forth in section 2.04, paren 1, paren D of the town code. Is there anybody who'd like to speak? Hearing no citizens' comments, I'm going to close the citizens' comment period, and I would look for approval of the January 28th, 2025 town board minutes.
I motion to approve board minutes.
I'll second it.
28th.
Motion is second to approve the minutes from January 28th. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Next item would be actions on vouchers submitted for payment, accounts payable and payroll. I'd like to make a motion to approve checks number 68335 through 68378 for the amount of $1,664,401.36. And for payroll dated February 14th, 2025, in the amount of $17,127.32.
First payment was regarding what was,
It's the checks for $1,664,000. I assume there's,
I just
it looks like fire dues is what we are paying to Lake Country Fire and Rescue. That's the huge,
that's the, what portion of it was that?
896,000 of it,
Okay.
of the 1.2 million. Is there a second?
A second.
Motion is second to approve the checks and payroll. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Next item, communications, 2024 recap of Waukesha County Sheriff's reports by month.
I went back to 2024 and looked at all the monthly reports that they send over. I'm not sure if you have ever had a chance to look at those reports.
Yeah, whenever
here-
they would.
Oh,
be shared.
every month?
Yeah, we do, I glance at them when we get them. Yeah, I do, it's always interesting, but.
Okay.
That was supposed to be monthly, wasn't it?
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted me to try to compare year over year. The statistics or the things that they're tracking look like they kind of change depending on the system software that they use. If you wanted me to see if there was an uptick, if it was even, if it was, if there's any additional data that you'd like me to provide to you regarding the sheriff's reports that they give monthly. Otherwise, this is just for your information.
And then I think sometimes when they've come and reported to us, we sometimes ask those questions. What are the trends? Where is, sometimes it's where is the crime coming from? We've talked a little bit about that. Sometimes we have, when they've reported out.
Did you want me to schedule them to come in at any certain month in general, or?
I think, quarterly or twice a year to come in and kind of just give us an update, or if there's, something in the community that, the board needs to know about, if they could come and talk to us about it. And, I know that they're big about, locking your doors and taking your garage door openers out of your cars and, make sure that, 9 a.m. everything's locked up, so.
Okay.
Agree, please.
Next item would be a Lake Patrol update. Supervisor Mahoney Ogden.
We did just have a meeting this past week, and I think my understanding is traditionally this group doesn't meet often, and I think in the past it's met after the voting season, and because I was new on this committee, and when we met at the kind of the end of the voting season this past in '24, there was talk that we should be a little bit more proactive, because by the time we meet at the end of the season, everything's already happened. We should try to meet a little bit more often. And so at that last meeting, there was a task force that was created by the chair, again, I was kind of new on this committee, and the Village of Trustee, and Tom Kep, and who is Lake Pewaukee Sanitary District, as well as Luke Twelmeyer, who is the police chief for Lake Patrol, formed their own committee. So it wasn't the existing municipalities, but they, to study the lake effects of wake surfing, and this meeting was to report out of their findings. And I know that I see Hans Meyer in the audience here, and I know he has given a lot of information from Lakes at Stake about the health of Pewaukee Lake. And again, I'm grateful to read all the information. I know that the pro wake surfers also, we're sending information. I wasn't part of the committee, so the committee was another smaller subcommittee, but they reported out information that I believe, has come to fruition with just making sure we can make sure we protect the resource of Pewaukee Lake. And the recommended practice was a map that was given, which primarily was, I think it was 700, I don't have it exactly in memory, 700 feet from shore in the deepest part of Pewaukee Lake. And again, the idea is obviously to minimize, this is really where it's going to have the less impact on the lake, as opposed to having a free-for-all where people can wake surf wherever on the lake. I will say this is not an enforceable ordinance. And this is right now being looked at as recommended practices. So when asked how that's going to be educated, and I think we're kind of still open to all that. We are going to meet again before the next season to how do we get people to know that. I think there's a QR code. Again, the town is being asked to put it on our.
Is it an ordinance?
It's not an enforceable ordinance.
No, it's not enforceable.
Right.
Is it an ordinance?
It's a recommended practice. I don't believe.
Okay,
yeah.
it's a suggestion. Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. And so when asked about that, so police now, whereas in the past, they couldn't like come up to a boat and say, hey, hey guys, what are you doing here? Now they're saying, we are asking everybody to
But
participate.
The police still can't come up to a boat
They can't now. Now they can.
without any reason. They can
Now
come
they
up
can,
to a boat
right, they can
based
come up
on a suggestion.
based on a suggestion. Yep. That is my understanding, because we did talk about that. Now, whereas in the past, they have been unable to do that. And so we didn't get feedback. And I know you're one of the people that came to the meeting. That's the only reason I knew you, is because you came to, basically, you're one of that small but mighty group that's like, don't let me take away my wake surf rights. Again, they didn't communicate. I guess my gut feeling was, I would think they, meaning you're the they now, would be pleased that nobody yanked it away from you, where so many municipalities now are. The town of Delafield, Pewaukee Lake isn't saying no wake surfing. I think we all realize everybody has rights. I just think this is a step to make sure that we're not doing anything to damage Pewaukee Lake and not having wake surfing. And so this was there. I wasn't on that committee, but I received the information. I didn't disagree with it. And again, it's not like we're yanking it. You can't get ticketed if you are, but at the same token, I think we're going to just see how it goes this year. And so we didn't have a ton of discussion because we didn't have a lot. We didn't meet. I didn't know what the suggestion was going to be because we didn't meet. It was just, we came to that meeting and they suggested it. There wasn't really a lot of discussion, except that I did ask, how they came up with that. And I think it was just from looking at the many, many, many studies that are out there, not just from Lakes at Stake, but from the other. So right now it is a recommended practice. So there's this map, and I think it's just basically, we're going to put it at, when people put in their boats, put it on, any of the boat clubs, the Pewaukee Yacht Club, the town, anybody who'll be willing to put the QR code on. So that's the update with that part. The second update was talking a little bit about, I think specifically because of what happened on the lake with the fatality most recently, and tragically, is there any best practices we can go forward to prevent something like that? So there was discussion about some of the permanent shanties that are on the lake, that we could have a requirement that they have either like a throwable, like you do on a boat, a throwable PFD or rope. I think we all thought that was, there's no, again, it may not make a difference, but it certainly couldn't help that somebody knows if there is a tragedy and there's a shanty there, they at least have to have something hanging. And so there was talk about how we could get a grant or money for having some of that, getting a donation of ropes or so that we could have, and there was, having those available. So we agreed that was a good idea. We are going to meet again prior to the boating season to just, I think, kind of do a little review of things. especially because of the last meeting, there was talk about, voter education, safety, and so those are kind of the highlights. And again, I think, the wake surfing is divisive. I think, the group that comes is the group that is like you, who want to make sure your rights don't get taken away, but I know there's other people who think other ways. So I think we're just trying to make everybody happy, but still protect the lake. And again, that's what happened at this meeting.
I have a question for you.
Yes,
The Lake Patrol meeting, when did it take place exactly?
just this past week on the Thursday.
Thursday night.
Last Thursday?
Was it before or after the windstorm we had on the lake?
Right,
During.
during, yeah, because they were getting calls of things flying around.
It was unsafe there. I mean, so many shanties.
Well, there's other problems with the shanties too. I mean, these shanties aren't just going through, leaving, for example, a life jacket on the top of it, so maybe they can fish it out later, but there was an ice boating incident where, and these fishermen talk about being neighborly, they left a shanty on the lake for 2 or 3 days a week in the ice. An ice boat went over where that area was. It almost took 2 people's lives. It destroyed the boat.
When was this?
Maybe a week and a half ago.
Really?
A week after the gentleman passed away. And it was
Oh,
on the big part of the lake, maybe directly between where I live on the North Shore and where you guys are on the South Shore. Closer to the South Shore. You guys know where the barge went through? Remember? And broke the ice?
nope.
Oh, yeah.
So it was just south of that, to give you a point. But I mean, there's other problems too. If you're gonna address the problems, they're not even aware. So you talk about education, how do you educate?
Yes.
Talk about education with these QR codes. What about all the people who live on the lake? You're not educating them.
Oh, I 100% agree, which is what I had said all along. It's good and fine to put some of this information when you're putting your boat in, but that's why I think some of the ideas, the Pewaukee Yacht Club is one idea, the Town of Delafield's website, because many people,
Also, I think it's very problematic to say that law enforcement has the right to come up to boats to talk about where they should or shouldn't be, which could lead to them saying, do you have your life jackets? Where's your fire extinguisher?
And is
And
it-
what does that lead to? So
it leads to safety.
no, it leads to them stopping you with improbable cause for no ordinance and then finding something that wasn't there. Like, it's a problem.
See, and I guess I'm okay with that. I think that if, we're,
I'm all for people being safe on the water. But you're gonna upset a lot of people who are gonna say you're violating my rights, probably.
Yeah, it's a fine line. You got-
very
it's
fine
a
line.
Fine line, you gotta navigate and negotiate.
but for the people who are unsafe on the water, I think they'll at least, and again, I think it'll be interesting how to go, because you
Okay.
could say for where it's good for the lake, that at least
There
we're.
are so many people that are unsafe on the water that aren't being stopped on a daily basis, so now we're gonna
Well, I
send
think-
people to
Well,
give
but that's, I mean,
suggestions.
I think that's a bigger issue that I think that we need to bring to the lake
Right, so
committee
I-
and to the lake
right,
patrol,
I mean,
because,
you should-
I can tell you, how many times I sit there and watch people go through the no wake.
Yes.
It's ridiculous that they
Yeah.
don't stop people, so.
Or one person on a boat towing 6 lines of tubers, which is not against necessarily the law anymore. But we can't stop them for that, to give them a suggestion that maybe you should have a spotter with 12 kids in the water. We don't stop the wave runner who's legally trailing a boat in their wake at a distance of more than 100 feet because it's legal. But it's terrifying to the parent who's pulling somebody who may fall off that device. So that's why I'm this, what you called small group. It's not about specifically one thing and surfing behind a boat. There are a number of problems, and we're opening up
and I,
to talk about these.
And I think that's good stuff, and I think that the sheriff needs to hear those things. I mean, I've talked to Michelle about this, and I think this is a good example when you said, what about the people that live on the lake that aren't going to get the education? I personally think we should do a survey, and, maybe then if it's not just a town, we could do something with because we've got different municipalities, and everyone can give their opinions on these kind of things, so we can know what to do with it. And so,
I also don't think we have the extent of the problem you guys think. quarantine, and we don't have the dollars and the time and the energy to be patrolling the lake like this.
Wait, but you just told me that you have all these concerns. So that's what
If you're gonna open up the floodgates,
That's what I'm
let's
saying.
open up the floodgates.
Yeah, that's what I'm just saying. I
That's
think-
what I'm saying.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think if you've got issues, then, then this is I think a survey kind of is a good way. Then you have the opportunity to talk about the ways.
I would support, if you want to do a survey and you'll spearhead it, I would support a survey.
Yeah, and and all these kind of things that come, where you're talking about ice shanties, safety of ice shanties, we can talk about, the jet skis.
But
These
I
are the
think your
things that.
sheriff is well aware of these problems. I think that our sergeant, who's in charge, has been involved in the lake his entire life. He's a phenomenal waterman, which I think it lends to why he's in charge. So I think he knows these issues. We have one boat out there, 2 boats out there.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, these are issues that need to be discussed at this Lake Patrol meeting, and I think the
support
Lake
that.
Patrol
But I
needs
just
to-
wanted to bring up that there's a lot of other things here that they should be looking at other than a life jacket on the top of a shanty.
Well, and I think this is all good stuff, and I'm taking notes, and I think we should ask, again, I've said this all along, we need to know, being in the position that we're in, we need to know what's on people's minds.
Yeah.
And, so I'm just started going to these committees because I haven't been there, so far, the only people the 2 meetings I've been to, the only people that have come have talked about the health of the lake and making sure we protect the health of the lake. And I love wake surfing, don't take my rights away. So those are the only 2 groups of people that I've heard. I'd love to hear more, and I've said that all along, being in the position, and that's why I would love to hear what's on people's minds. And all I can say to people is, please email us, or please call, please, and they don't, because, most people just don't bother. That's why I feel like, how can we conduct a survey? And again, it's just about a variety of things that we're all talking about here, and see what really is. We could throw lighting in there, just what do people,
Sure.
so that's my little update, which, again, typically, at least I'm pleased that we met, and perhaps now that there are more things to talk about, I think meeting more than once a year is applicable.
No, we
And
definitely-
I'm all for how else can we educate. That was,
Definitely need to meet more than once a year, and I think we got to get Sergeant Twillmeyer in here to talk to us about some of these other issues so that he can bring them up as the sergeant or the head of the Lake Patrol. And we got an email from Sergeant Twillmeyer, too. We're going to put the map as part of our, is that what I understood? Was we're going to add the map to our ordinances as a suggestion? Is that how I understood his email that we all received, or?
The email that I had with the map and the other attachment on it, from what I understood, we were just posting it on our website for
Okay.
informational purposes. So I did create a new page that was dedicated to the advisory group and linked it up with the City of Pewaukee's page.
Okay.
But it's now more prominent on our website, so if someone's looking for those things, they can find them easier.
Yeah.
Cool. Next item, item C, citizens' openings on the Border Review and the Park Advisory Committee. We need some alternates for the Border Review, so I'm looking for some citizen members to be alternates for the Border Review with the reval happening this year, in case any conflicts arise. Ideally, I'd like some people to step forward who aren't on the lake, given that the majority of this board are lake people. And then the Park Advisory Committee, looking for a handful of citizens, 4 or 5, to help us redo the kind of the master plan for our parks for the next 5 years, so that we can look at ways to spend our impact funds. So there's a link on the website. We're looking for some individuals to come forward who are interested in the parks and would like to kind of talk about what they'd like to see in the parks in the next 5 years as we get impact fees, so they can figure out where to allocate them.
and I thought that the posting, did you do that, Michelle? I thought it looked great on the website, so I think that's perfect now, and we've been directed, obviously, to find people, so now all we need to do basically is tell them to go to the website and contact you, and
Yes, please.
yeah, I've got a couple thoughts, and I'll just direct them to the website, but I thought it presented very nicely, so thank you, Michelle, for doing that.
And then the next item, Wisconsin Towns Association update. We are hosting the Wisconsin Towns Waukesha County Unit Meeting on April 23rd. We're going to have John Koskinen, the chief economist from the Department of Revenue, come and talk to us, and hopefully a handful of legislators to tell us what's happening with the state budget and how it relates to towns. It also will be Sharon's last meeting as chairman. As you may or may not know, she's not running for re-election in the town of Genesee, so she will no longer be chairman of the Waukesha County unit. So it should be hopefully a well-attended meeting. And then also April 30th is going to be Capitol Day in Madison, when we get to go and talk to our local legislators about how they can help better fund towns and town issues. Next item, item 8, unfinished business.
Can I ask
Sure.
to clarification on that? So in the past, like when I've attended the unit meetings, the town meetings, the town who hosts, like, provides, are we doing that too? So we talking about that later on in terms of providing a meal?
Yeah,
So we know, I just want to make sure we don't, okay.
Yeah, no, Scott's Construction gives, and the county unit gives everybody $100, and then we have to provide a meal, so.
Okay, so who's in charge of that, I guess? Michelle? Okay.
Michelle and her crew.
Okay, I just, again, being that I've attended them before, I know it's always there, and sometimes they're homemade, sometimes, I just want to make sure we did our part.
Yeah, no, we're-
Okay, we haven't had one here that I'm aware of, that I've been on at least. And can you tell us a little bit more about Capitol Day? Because I don't remember that from last year either, since I've been on the board the last couple of years.
It's every 2 years, in conjunction with the state budget cycle. You get together in Madison at one of the hotels around the square, and then they schedule meetings for people to go and talk to their local legislators.
So it's not just for towns?
Yeah, it's just.
This is just for, so like when we have our WTA annual meeting, that's just town. So this is just another event that we
It's
do
just
every 2
another
years.
part, yeah. for the towns.
Is it suggested, again, I've been to the annual convention and I've been to some of the unit meetings. Is that something that you encourage us all to?
Yeah, I mean, if you're available on the 30th to come and attend, I mean, the local legislators like to hear from their local people, so. Thank you. There is no unfinished business. Next item, item 9A, review of the Schindler Elevator Corporation upgrade agreement or plus agreement. Administrator Lutke.
Yeah, so we have been having problems with the elevator since October. We've had Schindler, who's our servicer currently, come out and look at the elevator multiple times. They've indicated and from what I understand, kind of tuned it up a little bit and tried different things, but every time they try something else then after that breaks. We did have some complications during the election. We had some people that were allowed to park up on the fire department area, and they tried to use the elevator, and it didn't work. And from what I understand, there was somebody in it when it didn't work, but I don't know all the details for that. So when they came out recently and they told us that it was a circuit board, they gave us a quote for the circuit board amount, which is in your packet. And then I asked them what the maintenance, the next level up maintenance agreement would be that would have otherwise covered this circuit board replacement. And they said it was, about $1,000 more, also in your packet. When they came and looked at it, they sent us a bill for $883 just to diagnose what the problem was. I was able to get them to not bill us that amount, but I also told them that we would be coming to some sort of a decision here because I wasn't sure which way the board wanted to go with this particular item. We didn't budget to have the maintenance agreement. But we also don't have a huge budget to do multiple repairs on this elevator. And in talking to the building inspector, I said, what are the requirements for actually having an elevator? And he said, no, whenever you have stairs, you have to have an elevator that accompanies it. So I asked him if we walled off upper and lower, but kept it intact so that if we ever did sell the building, that somebody could then open it up and use it again. Would we then be required to have the elevator working if neither one of those stairs or elevator was an option? And he said if you blocked it off, then it wouldn't be a problem and you'd only have to pay for 2x4s and drywall. So I thought I'd bring the whole thing to you guys because I'm not really sure what direction the board would like to go with an elevator that is outside of its 10-year warranty period. The warranty for 10 years ended last year, and we don't use the elevator terribly much. So it's 11 years now, and it's got about 1,200 pushes on it. So that's like 109 rides a year, and if it's up and down, that's like 50 times, you know? So we've been pushing the button just to get it to go up and down, to give it some
It's not being used.
some
the way it
mileage.
should be.
It's really not being used. So yeah. And the parts in there are getting moist. Or, I don't even know. There's just a lot happening in there. And I don't know which way you guys would like to go because it is, in my opinion, very expensive. So looking for some direction.
Well, first off, kudos to you,
Yeah.
the creativeness of getting around it. That was you and our engineer. If you know anything about the elevator business, it's a monopoly and service, and, I mean, we aren't alone that we're having this issue. This is anybody who has it's the service and the price, so if we have a way around it that, is not going to be burdensome to our employees, and I know we built it, and we're going to have some naysayers saying, we built this elevator, but I think it's great, you know, you're right, for resale, it's still there. I think we should I feel strongly, I think great that you figured out a way around it, because otherwise it's just an expense that seems to me to be unnecessary. I think it's great we have it, it's great for resale if we need it, let's just I would propose that we take your suggestion of walling them off and dealing with it. Maybe that's not the most, that's just my opinion. I think it's costing the town for the use it's getting, it's not worth the money, and it's not gonna, I can tell you this, it's not gonna get any better. We can choose, there are other companies who service elevators, it'll be more expensive, and they may not even do it, because I know Schindler has the monopoly on it, but, so that's the other option, is we could source it out, and there's, you know, there's some other ones that will serve potentially, but I think they tend to be more expensive, but you level. So, that's mine. Anybody else wanna say anything?
Agree with what you said.
Just a silly question, who would be using the elevator?
We just push the button
Oh,
every
just
now
to-
and then.
but-
Nobody's really
Nobody's really
using
using
it
it, so there was
up
no
on the
specific
grid.
needs, like,
There's a lot of ghost
Yeah.
rides.
So, yeah, ghost rides.
Is anybody in
basically
need?
this. We had a couple people who were voting that were in need during the election. But I'm hopefully going to propose for 26 not to have this be a polling place. We have enough room at the churches to split it in half and keep one on the north side and one in the middle here. Based on our size, we are not in need of 3 polling sites. This one with the parking issues that we have outside and the hill that goes down to the other area seem to be the least accommodating for ADA purposes, including the elevator issues. And we don't really want people parking up top because that was a problem blocking the fire department. So I don't know if we would want to do that again anyway. So, sorry, that was a lot
I
there.
appreciate you thinking outside the box, because you obviously, you know, came up with an alternate solution, so I really appreciate that. And I would agree with you, Supervisor Mahaniak, then. I think we should just call it a day and not have a use for it.
Yep. Chair, do you have any opinions on it?
Well, I mean, I do recall that the whole elevator thing, you know, from the get-go, this building was a contentious issue because they tried to, you know, say that they were, you know, the fire station and the town hall were 2 separate buildings, but they lost that fight. I mean, we have the elevator there. I think we need to maintain it. And in case, you know, somebody does need to use it, either coming from the fire station or coming from the town hall up to the fire station. It's just, you know, this building is now showing its age, and, you know, there's gonna be some maintenance and some bills that are gonna come due to this building. And I think we need to maintain the elevator.
So you were basically saying you want to keep it functional?
Yeah, I think.
With its maintenance and
I
its
think we need to, you know, look at, you know, getting a maintenance agreement to make sure that the elevator is compliant and that we're in compliance with ADA and the rules and laws out there, given that we have the two buildings, or the 2 separate floors.
But we're still considered ADA compliant if we separate the buildings. I think that's the way, is we can still be ADA compliant, we just have two different buildings, and people have to enter the building based on their, can you talk a little bit about the other fees with the phone? I mean, I didn't realize that,
Yeah,
that's
so,
another whole fee.
I've been going through our bills and kind of seeing where there's some redundancies and trying to figure out what's going on. So we've found out that the elevator itself has a phone in it that when you
Wired,
press
yeah.
the call
Wired, yeah.
emergency
Wired,
button,
yeah.
right? And it's $65 a month that we're paying for that phone that is making random 411 calls that we're paying $3 a piece for, but that's here nor there.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know how an elevator is making 411 calls, but they're charging us for that, so. But in any event, I mean, it's just, I don't, either whatever way we want to go, I just, there are some extras that are coming along with this elevator too that,
It's worth getting a second opinion. If
From
we're
like
gonna do
a-
it, if we're gonna look at a maintenance agreement,
Oh.
to even look at one, is it worth then at least looking at a second opinion to at least have them diagnose the current situation top of a maintenance agreement?
like instead of Schindler, like an Otis or something?
Or Cone, there's Cone's another one.
And again, there's not a lot of them.
Right.
There's only a handful
And it's still
of them
going to be
out
money.
there.
I mean, I think,
Well,
Chairman Crane,
I
I
guess,
think-
I guess what I'm bringing up is, do they give you a different answer? And do they give you a different maintenance agreement that may be more favorable? Because it's gonna be a shame to put $1,000 into it, not get a lot of use, and then every 6 months have to put a few $1,000s into it. But maybe that's the cost of having an elevator as well.
So I'm not a specialist in the industry of elevators in any way, but is there like maybe a few different grades of heavy dutiness? Like an elevator that's meant to be used 1,000 times a day versus maybe once every other day and things like that, where,
I think we have the elevator. I think the question at this point is just what it's gonna cost to maintain on an annual basis to make sure it's operational, and we don't wanna get hit with surprise costs.
So the $1,500 that we're paying for the contract fee now is for them to come and just look at it every 6 months? I'm not sure what they're looking for, but they're not fixing anything.
I think I really feel strongly that it's, I think most people we talk to who have elevators, if we have a way around it, especially, it's not like we're destroying it, we still have it. I feel strongly that we should, and if we end up saying, you know what, in a few years from now, that we really do need it, we have the ability to get it going again
But
by just having it go dormant.
I think the problem is the cost is gonna be exorbitantly more. If we shut it down and don't maintain it for 3 years and then decide to turn it back on, you're not just looking at a couple of $1,000s versus, for argument's sake, say it's $1,500 a year in the maintenance agreement, just to have them do the service, just to come out and say, hey, it's running clean, you got a clean bill of health. Then if there's a problem, they're gonna tell you there's a problem. I think what I'm hearing is there are problems that we're gonna run into every year. Let's put a number behind these problems for our debate here and say it's $3,000 a year on top of the $1,500 agreement, okay? After 5 years, if we don't do this and we decide to turn it on, it could be a $15,000 amount to get it re-going. Who knows what's happened to the cables, what has to be replaced, versus these are meant to run. And by it not running, it's deteriorating. So,
Yeah,
we're in a tough position either way here, but it's not a decision then 5 years down the road, I don't think. I think that we're gonna be in a bigger hole.
Yeah, I think that, we need to look at this a little bit deeper, and understand that, hey, if we just shut it down, what's the cost gonna be if we decide to turn it back on? Like if it stays dormant for,
Right.
2-3 years, can we just turn it back on, or does it have to get re-inspected?
I'm giving a
and
hypothetical, I don't know
Yeah, no,
real
I think, yeah,
numbers.
I was ready to propose that we take a break from it and deal with it, but if we want to seek another opinion about what it would be, what's worst-case scenario, just let it sit for dormant and then reactivate it. Either way, you're still gonna have, I mean, in your notes even said, it's like, ching, this is gonna happen, and then
Yeah.
again, I think it's creative that we could figure out a way. It's just, we are not alone that we are struggling with elevator service and cost. It is a problem.
Are we in a position where we need to look, do we have extra funding? Or are we going to be in a hole? That's another big question here.
Well, I'm guessing this is just gonna come out of our building maintenance fund.
Right, we budgeted for the contract of $1,500 essentially, so the I think it's $3,600 for the circuit board alone was not planned for. But yes, I mean, we can cover it, obviously, but it's not a guarantee that the circuit board will fix the problem.
Yeah, like anything that starts aging, like a old car
So
or
it's an
something.
annual service fee plus the circuit board, and then even with the service maintenance plan, it's not saying it's gonna cover, it's just,
It doesn't cover anything.
right.
The $4,500 one would have covered the circuit board,
The plus
but there are, I think it's called the
Plus agreement or
plus,
The
the,
yeah.
plus, yeah. But there are things in there that it wouldn't cover, and they list them in the contract.
well, do we,
Can we just table this item?
can we table it, and in the meantime, maybe get an opinion from them, and then maybe an opinion, just these hypothetical opinions from another company too about
For
You know-
both, I think from both of them, I think we need to ask
what happens if we,
Shut
you
it down for 5 years? Is it just as simple, fix the current problem, turn back on, or is there an additional?
Okay.
what could be the,
Right.
worst case? I mean, I'm sure we're not the only place potentially that has abandoned their elevator and then maybe, I don't know, turned
Yeah,
it
they'll
on.
have experience
Yep.
on it, and we probably, again, with Schindler, and I think it's probably worth looking at one other.
What was the other one you said?
Well, I think it's Zone. I did a few little calling around. I think it's, I can get it for you. Hang on
Okay.
here. Hang on here just a second. I actually wrote it down.
There's another one, it's a
Well,
European.
Otis is the big one, but Schindler tends to, if there's, that's what happens when there's not many. You, again, no. Let me see. I made a note of it somewhere here, but I can, otherwise, I can try to help you with it
It'll
too.
be easy to
But I think
there's one or
Schindler,
two
let's,
on there.
obviously, Cone, I think that's the other one, maybe.
Cone?
Yeah.
Okay.
KONA.
Okay. Yeah, again, I think probably more expensive, but potentially not. Let's talk to Schindler, but,
It's educational at the
Yeah,
very
yeah.
least.
Right. Okay, sure.
Well, and aren't they inspected once a year by the state too, to understand like how, like if it's shut down for how many years, what it costs to get the thing re-inspected? or
that'd be a
just
great person to ask. They might have just some insight on it, potentially.
Yeah, they may not know real cost, but.
Yeah.
May have been at buildings where they've inspected one and be able to say, oh, call this place, they did that. And then we could call that place and find out how much it, I might say, oh, we inspected this elevator that hadn't been running for 8 years, and then maybe that, whatever company or business could help us.
Okay.
So I'd look for a motion to table.
We'll
it.
motion to table the issue with the elevator funding until further review has been done by staff.
Second.
Motion is second to table this item. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Consideration of IPS as a third-party payroll service provider. Administrator Lukey.
So we experienced some transitional pains, if you will, going from one accounting firm to another, and having year-end and so forth. In speaking with our current accounting provider, they had indicated that the numbers that they gave in our initial bid for their services did include some payroll reporting and so forth. But when we looked at potentially going out to a third party to do payroll and this reporting function, we found that the cost was really not that high. We also found a local business that services the fire department as well, oddly. We found out after we talked to them that they already did the fire department. And we did talk to the fire department, and they've had a lot of great success with this particular company being available all the time, having all the major updates, making sure the calculations are correct, getting the reports in on time, and so forth. So we were hoping to investigate and see what you guys thought about us outsourcing our payroll to a third party that would be less expensive than our accounting firm would currently charge us for.
Do we have a dedicated payroll specialist? Do you know, I mean, being that it's small,
Yeah.
so we don't get called and then get in a queue kind of a thing, or do we have someone dedicated to help us?
From the company?
Yes.
They are extremely responsive to the fire department, at least. So, and the fire department does have a lot of nuances with their particular reporting, but
Yep.
the response time is 24 hours or less typically.
Okay.
We wouldn't have as many nuances as the fire department has. Ours is pretty straightforward. When they would give us our check registers back, that's when we would make the payments to things like WRS and retirement funds and things like that.
And with W-2s,
Those would be available online through a dashboard along with their pay stubs that they would be able to access at any time.
and then, so employees have to select if they electronic, do you get it, is there a cost if people, do you have employees that are going to want paper?
If they want a paper check, there's no additional cost, and
Oh,
they
okay.
will allow us to go and pick up the payroll paper checks like Thursday before they would be sent out or
And there's
whatever.
no additional cost?
No additional
Okay.
cost for that, no.
They have a good employee rating, employee satisfaction rating. I mean, I looked into them a little bit, so, I mean, they're local and they're family. I mean, it's, again, many of these companies then, position themselves to get sold, which is life, which is fine, but I guess we can cross that bridge if that ever happens, and especially if our own fire
How
department
long
has
have they
been
been in
pleased.
business?
What did they say? I think they said at least 8 years, but I think it's closer to 10.
Yeah, I did a little looking into it. I especially, and the price seemed fair, and anybody else have anything else to ask?
No, the price seems fair, and it just, there were too many issues during the transition, and this helps resolve them. I mean, Dan and I did look at this prior to the transition, but we thought that we weren't going to have these issues, so, but we've had these issues, and I think now is a good time to move forward.
And we need to give them, would this happen soon? So we're looking, we're looking for a motion to, it says consideration, are we looking for a motion then to further consider, or that you are going to terminate and proceed with them? Is that kind of what the
To
motion is we're
proceed with
looking for?
them, yeah, because we don't, like, the items on our current accountant are kind of à la carte, so if you use them, you get paid for it. They aren't billing us for it, before we use it or whatnot. So this would be approval tonight and then move forward with that third party as soon as possible, before the first quarter,
Do you have to sign a
preferably.
contract with them or anything?
Yep,
Yearly or what?
it is yearly, yep.
And the fire department's been with them the whole time?
For at least 4 years.
Okay. I mean, I
So-
think that's a good judge of,
Yeah.
and they,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, I motion to approve moving to IPS for our payroll service provider.
A second.
Motion is second to approve IPS as a third-party payroll service provider. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes 4-0.
Thank you, Michelle, for
Thank you.
doing the research and finding them. Good, thank you.
Next item, 9C, resolution to approve the 2025 fee schedule.
Me again.
Yes, you again.
So I know this was probably supposed to come in December, but there was a transition obviously happening, so I didn't get a chance to look at it until January. Went line by line, talked to the departments about it, talked to, Park and Rec. She had made some suggestions for an increase in fees for the parks. Talked to our engineering department, or Tim Barbeau, about it, and we had to recalculate the impact fee, which went up fairly significantly from what it was before, based on the calculation that's shown in the memo, or the breakdown, I should say. So these are just some updates to the fee schedule. This also includes some of the input from Safe Belt, our building inspector. I'd like to get this on the board's agenda every November or December. But I'm hoping to get these approved to at least get it in place for the, baseball programs, the park rentals, and then the building permits that are going to be coming in for the Wilshire Farm. There are some of them that are not, you can't go above a certain rate based on state statutes, so like the liquor licenses and so forth remain the same. I did put them in there as a large chunk because we have this type of format out there for residents to consume in an easy-to-read format. But I'm hoping to make some changes to our code so that we just have to reference this one place instead of going into the code in every single section just to change a price that could possibly increase every year. So there's going to be some additional cleanup happening throughout 2025, just to reference this fee schedule list.
So the previous was 1993,
Correct.
and that was for 2024.
I think it was 21.
Okay, so that's what I was going to say. So that
It's-
was, and how many years were we at that? That's what I'm trying to find.
About 4.
Okay. And when it says there, the formula confirmed by our town engineer, like, what's the formula? Or
So it's, you have to take last year's CIP minus this year's CIP times the rate that it was before, and then it gives you the new rate. So, but you have to do that year over year, so we had to go back to 2021 and do 22, 23, 24. So that's why there's like a progression there.
Okay.
The entire formula and everything will be outlined in our budget too, for the next time around.
Okay. For anything else, it's a big jump. That's what a big change. That's all
Yeah, but that's, I mean,
That's what I'm trying
indexed
to,
on
you
the
know,
CPI,
even
so-
if it's,
There shouldn't be anything else.
not
There was a
really.
big change, because we've
Not
been,
huge.
you know, we've been updating it pretty much yearly with building inspector
Yep.
fees. And then the only other really big jump here is the dog licenses, and that's.
That's following the
And that's
county.
just a pass-through through the county, so.
Right.
Correct.
okay, so and being that you've come other places, you've done this in other things, do you have any other comments about this? About the way we do ours and the way we?
Not
you know?
really. I'd like to just make it easier by doing that referencing in the code.
Okay.
That's really it, though. It looked pretty good. Everything's pretty on point.
So you're looking for a resolution to approve the 2025, okay, so I motion to approve the 2025 fee schedule.
A second.
Motion is second to approve the 2025 fee schedule. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Next item, the Waukesha County-wide Damage Assessment Services MOU. So this basically helps us if there is a tornado or other, like a windstorm or a wind event, helps us get the damage assessed so that we'd be eligible for any emergency funding that would be available through that. Spoke with the fire department. They highly recommend that all their partner agencies sign this, and then hopefully volunteer a couple folks to be able to join this assessment team. Probably somebody from the DPW to be out there if there was a tornado or windstorm, helping assess the damage of trees or flooding or anything that would happen by that. So I would recommend approval.
Wait, can you clarify what you mean, that they ask us to get volunteers? You mean just kind of like in order, just kind of have them handy if need be, so that we could call them? Is that what you're?
Yeah, so like if, like New Berlin or another municipality had an event, their DPW crew or their folks would be busy trying to clear the streets and clear, whatever damage is there. They would call in other folks from the counties to come in and help, measure the size of the trees that are down and take pictures and help, gather data for what happened.
So we're signing it, and but it was just to clarify, so we just need to be aware that we might somehow or other be thinking about who would be people that we could call if another municipality, if we need help.
Correct.
So it's just part of, even like we're looking for volunteers for Board of Review, we're looking for volunteers for parks, we need people to think about helping out and if we ever have a disaster. Right. And did you, can you say, you said we were encouraged by our fire department that everybody,
By Chief Fenning and Lake Country Fire and Rescue.
that they're trying to get all partnerships
Yeah,
to sign?
he recommended that all partners take this up at a board meeting and adopt it.
Is it look anything different? Again, you come with history from other places, so I just like to pick your brain with,
Yeah, this is something that the larger municipalities sign right away. I don't even know if it makes it all the way to the boards and committees, but yeah, this is not unusual and the language is pretty standard. So, and again, this is for like large scale events where if we are not the ones directly impacted, that we would be able to render some sort of assistance to those that are impacted.
Okay. I mean, I motion that we sign and we participate in the Waukesha County Damage Assessment Services MOU.
I second.
Motion is second to adopt the Waukesha County-wide damage assessment memorandum of understanding. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion passes 4-0. Next item is a closed session pursuant to the provisions in Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, paren 1, paren E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public property, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. More specifically, to discuss the proposed funding options from the draft Wisconsin Policy Forum Lake Country Fire and Rescue Funding Study. So I would look for a motion to go into closed session.
A motion to go into closed session?
A second.
There's a motion and a second. If you'll call the roll, please.
Supervisor Mahoney Ogden,
Present?
Supervisor Miller,
Aye.
Supervisor Berkowitz,
Present?
Chairman Kranick.
Aye.
Thank you. 7:53. Thank you.
You know the next lake court?